Hello, this is D and I'm back with another video, and today we have a lot of stories to discuss. We're going to talk about the PlayStation 5 Pro and how developers are impressed with the hardware. We're also going to talk about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle as a preview event went out this week. We're going to discuss Call of Duty, its sales, as well as developers going on strike. So we got a lot of topics to touch on. So let's just get right into it and start off with Indiana Jones and the preview event that happened this week. This is kind of getting mixed reviews, or I should say previews. Now, Microsoft flew out a lot of influencers to try out this game, and some of them liked it, some of them didn't like it, some of them said it's kind of boring. Now, I don't really know what to expect from Indiana Jones after all of these previews have come out. Now, personally, I think the game looks fantastic. Even the preview footage, the game looks polished. The hand-to-hand combat looks good. The whip action looks good. The gunplay, it looks good. Now, this is mostly an action game. Well, it should be. And some previews are saying that it was really heavy on the stealth. Now, I don't expect Indiana Jones just to go out guns blazing, because that's not the type of game, that's not the type of character that is Indiana Jones. There's a lot of stealth, I would say. There's a lot of exploration. There's a lot of puzzle solving. And of course, there's a lot of action. There's huge set pieces in the Indiana Jones movies. So I would expect the same of this game. Now, Colt Eastwood, and you know Colt Eastwood, he's a heavy Xbox supporter, and he even said there's certain parts of the game that might come off a little bit boring, that he wasn't given access to the bigger areas with set pieces, that he just kind of did a lot of stealth and like little missions. He didn't really have full access to the game. So he said some gamers might find some of those parts slow. Now, I think if you're gonna preview the game, you should preview the game in the best light. You should give these influencers access to the really heavy action scenes so they can get a full grasp of the game. It seems like they were only given certain parts of it, and I think because of this, some of the previews are coming out mixed. I think some people were expecting something else. Now, Indiana Jones, like I said, it's not a first-person shooter. It should be at first an adventure and action game. That's what it should be. Now, I kind of see a trend here. Most of the positive previews, they're kind of Xbox channels or Xbox influencers. Now, PC Gamer, which is not an Xbox influencer, obviously, they had a completely different take on it. And some gamers, they're kind of up in arms by this. And I see some points of what they're trying to say, and I also think that maybe they were expecting something else from Indiana Jones. Anyways, they go on to say that after 3 hours with Indiana Jones at the Great Circle, I don't think it's the grand adventure Machine Games is pitching. It is just fairly a basic stealth game. Its visuals are impressive and made with a clear love for the movies, but its action feels surprisingly limited. Now, they go on to say in the article that shortly before their hands-on with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, a developer for Machine Guns explained this is not an action adventure, but an adventure action. He went on to say he promises that this isn't just a cinematic skin over the studio's usual FPS combat, instead prioritizing the feel of Indiana Jones' adventure. The problem is that's only half the truth, as a statement of intent is exactly what you'd want. It certainly wouldn't feel true to the character. If Indiana Jones is simply going room to room, mowing down Nazis like Wolfenstein, you want to see him bash some heads for sure, but also exploring, escaping, chasing, outwitting, and generally pulling off the impossible. The problem is I don't think what the studio made here really is an adventure action. After roughly 3 hours with it, I think it's basically just a stealth game. And you know, that's a little worrying, because I don't want this to be a stealth game. I want it to have some stealth elements. I want it to have some puzzle solving, but I don't want it to be like a stealth game. I'm expecting an action adventure or an adventure action, whatever they want to call it. But I'm expecting the proper elements that an Indiana Jones game should have. Now, seeing how some people enjoy it, some people don't, I think this is one of those games that you're gonna just have to play it and see for yourself. But I will say this, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, it needs to be a hit for Microsoft. If this game is a dud with the Indiana Jones franchise, I don't know, this would not bode well for Xbox and them getting future franchises. Now, this game is coming to the PlayStation 5, obviously the PlayStation 5 Pro, so it's not solely an exclusive, it's a timed exclusive. Nonetheless, this is going into the Game Pass service, so in my honest opinion, this game does need to do well for Microsoft. Now, I'm gonna have to get my hands on with this game in order for me to have a real valid opinion. I just want to report on the news that's coming out, and The previews for Indiana Jones right now are a little bit mixed. Now, I think overall it's going to be a good game. From what I've seen, the graphics look fantastic. The hand-to-hand combat looks good. You know, the whip action looks great. And I'm pretty sure that the story is going to be really good, because how do you mess up an Indiana Jones story? But the rest of the gameplay and the pacing of the game is really important. And I think if it's solely a stealth type of game, or more so of a stealth type of game, I think a lot of gamers might get bored or might be put off by this title. So we're gonna have to wait and see. We still have some time before this game comes out. We're gonna get to see some more previews, and obviously we're all gonna get to play it for ourselves and judge it by then. But I'm just saying the facts that this game definitely needs to be a hit for Microsoft. Now, speaking of a hit for Microsoft, specifically Xbox, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is breaking all kinds of records. Now, this next story is coming in hot. I had to kind of splice it into the video, but Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella says last week's launch of Black Ops 6 was the biggest Call of Duty release ever, setting a record for day one players as well as Game Pass subscribers, adding to its launch day totals. Unit sales on PlayStation and Steam were also up 60% year over year. So to all the people that were saying, because Microsoft now bought Activision, which of course makes Call of Duty, that the game would lose its lore, that it would lose its quality. And in fact, it's anything but that. This is the first Call of Duty in years that is getting rave reviews on the campaign. Now, the last few Call of Duties, they didn't do too well, I guess, in the ratings. Of course, they did fine for sales, but critics, they were kind of, standoffish on it. And I'll say that the last Call of Duty, some of the levels, they left a little bit to be desired. They kind of felt like they were like a multiplayer map that was run with bots, to be honest. So I can understand some people being a little, let down by last year's campaign. However, this year, what I played so far is fantastic, and the sales are showing that. So 60% year over year on PlayStation and Steam is huge. This is also huge for Game Pass. Now, I've said this a long time ago. When this game goes into Game Pass, it is definitely going to boost the subscriber count. And we have more games coming. We have Indiana Jones coming. Now, whether or not you like that game or not, a lot of people are going to subscribe to Game Pass for that game. We also have Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 coming. And in 2024, we have a host of other games coming as well. So Game Pass, I've always been a supporter of Game Pass. I really do believe that it's the best value in gaming, and I can enjoy my Game Pass titles on PC. In fact, you don't even need an Xbox really to enjoy Game Pass. Microsoft is pushing it off on the Fire Stick. They're pushing it off on Samsung TVs. They're pushing it off on your Android devices. They really don't care where you play the games. I want to talk about the strike, or I should say, what is going on with the developers of Call of Duty Black Ops. Now, it was reported today that the developers have taken a strike over office working policy. Now, this is being reported by Eurogamer.net. Like usual, I'll leave a link in the description down below so you guys can check it out for yourself. Now, they go on to say that Activision quality assurance staff who worked on the just-released Call of Duty Black Ops 6 staged a protest against the company's return to work policy. Staff at the Activision Quality Assurance Studio in Eden Prairie, Minnesota, were told to return to office full-time back in January after years of remote or hybrid working. At the time, the move was criticized by the company's biggest union as a soft layoff. 9 months later, the rollover to the policy effects rumble on. Now, last Friday, staff members took protest action backed with the Communication Workers of America, who claimed in a statement that Call of Duty publisher Activision was insisting workers must work in the office, even those with serious medical conditions, doctors' recommendations to work from home. Now, ahead of the protest, Activision workers at the A Better ABK issued a statement saying unequal policy had unquestionably harmed disabled employees and employees in need of work from home accommodations, who claim it has been unfairly refused exception from return to office work in months since the policy's introduction. So they kind of took the perfect time to protest when there's a lot of media attention on Call of Duty Black Ops. And I gotta be honest with you here, I usually side with the developers. Now, if someone is medically disabled and they need to work from home, it doesn't make sense to me that any company is going to force them to go into the office. So what I think it may be is a case of some people taking advantage and getting used to working at home and not wanting to go back into the office. Now, if you are able-bodied and you are required to go into the office, you got to go into the office. There is nothing to complain about. There's nothing to protest. That is your job and you are required to do so. Now, the pandemic kind of changed things and a lot of people got comfortable working at home. Now, I'm not going to lie. It would be awesome to work at home every day, obviously, and get paid the same from these companies. But the pandemic is over. And I honestly feel with some people in the office, they'd actually probably achieve more things. When you're on your own pace and you're at home, there's nobody pushing you. The drive is just not the same. So it would make sense that Activision would want its employees to go into the office. In all honesty, there's a lot of developers that are out of a job, and I don't think it really deserves you protesting that you have to go into the office to do your job. Now, I could be wrong here, and if I am, you guys can let me know in the comment section down below. But I think that they should be required to go into the office if they are able-bodied. If someone is definitely handicapped or disabled, I just don't see Activision forcing them to go into the office. I think people are just using this as an excuse, or maybe some people are getting fake doctor's notes so they don't have to go into the office. Let's not pretend like these things don't happen. Nonetheless, I really don't think this is something worth them protesting on. I guess we'll see what happens out of this. You guys let me know if I'm tripping on this. Maybe I'm being insensitive, but to me, it just seems like a bunch of people that just don't want to go into the office and work. Now we're going to finally talk about the PlayStation 5 Pro. Now it appears that some content creators are actually receiving the PlayStation 5 Pro. We actually have a look of what the retail box will look like. And I gotta be honest with you, it looks like a regular PlayStation 5 box. So nothing really exciting. We also got some updates on the blades. Now the blades that are for the regular PlayStation 5 Slim, they will not work on the PlayStation 5 Pro. Now they are basically the same size. The only difference is the clips. So Sony is trying to nickel and dime you here in order for you to buy the custom blades for the PlayStation 5 Pro. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, I don't really agree with that. If the old blades could fit, why are you just making the placement of the clips different in order to force gamers to get another set of blades? I just don't agree with that practice here. Now we're going to shift over to WCCF Tech. They have an article regarding the PlayStation 5 Pro's hardware and how developers are really impressed with the performance. And this was said by a developer, and he goes on to say that the most impressive aspect is PSSR. Now I've been telling you guys for quite some time that PSSR is going to be a game changer. It is giving us DLSS-like image quality. Now, some people are saying, well, it's not like DLSS. The reason why it's not quite to the level of DLSS yet is because it needs to learn more. Now, as the model learns over time, it will get better. So we're going to see in the next 6 months that PSSR is a lot better from launch. It's just that type of technology that gets better over time. Now, machine learning AI is a significant upgrade over the current generation consoles. Now, FSR, it cannot do the same thing as PSSR. PSSR is machine learning AI that has dedicated hardware for it that is on a neural network. FSR is software. Now, FSR, when the action gets fast, it kind of looks like a mess. Small little details like grass, it doesn't do a good job of it. Now, to be honest with you, out of all of the upscalers that use this type of method, FSR is by far the worst. So, it is what it is. Now, it was necessary on console in order to get that performance up. You needed to get higher frame rates. You needed to be able to go from a lower resolution to get, 1440p and upscale it to 4K. So cuts needed to be made, and, FSR was perfect at the time for it. But now as this generation is starting to get a little bit older and games are becoming more demanding and games are starting to look a lot better, we can see the shortcomings of FSR. And I'm going to tell you right now, PSSR is miles beyond FSR. So if anybody is telling you that FSR is the same thing, it is not. They are two completely different technologies. Anyhow, let's just get into the article. The article goes, the PlayStation 5 Pro launches globally, and as we approach the release date, more developers are talking about their experience with the hardware. Earlier today, we shared an excerpt from an interview with Dying Light franchise director and mentioned how PlayStation's spectral super resolution could be more important than other hardware advancements. Interestingly, we can now reinforce the opinion with similar impressions from our PlayStation 5 Pro Q&A with Nexon's engine programmer Joanne Kim, who worked on enhancements coming from their free-to-play looter shooter The First Descendant. Kim also believes that PSSR is the console's most impressive feature, and even went as far as saying its image quality stands up to any other upscalers on the market, including NVIDIA DLSS. Interestingly, they have decided to mix PSR upscaling with AMD FSR frame generation. So they're using frame generation with PSSR. So you're going to get higher frame rates with frame generation, and you're going to get that better image quality with PSSR. So it's going to look 4K, it's going to run at higher frame rates. Now, I'll be honest, frame generation, it can be a hit and miss. Some games, it does add a little bit of latency. Now, if it's a single player game, I think it's fine to use frame generation. I kind of draw the line if it's something that is competitive, because it does add a bit of latency. Now, I'll kind of skip down the article because it's quite a long read, and like I say, you can check in the description down below, and I'll leave a link so you guys can read in your own leisure. Now, the article goes on to say, considering that the PlayStation 5 Pro is a performance-enhanced model rather than a full-fledged successor, it has achieved significant performance improvements in many areas. As you already know, it's based on three main features: enhanced GPU performance, improved ray tracing architecture, and a new command set. The most impressive aspect during the PlayStation 5 Pro adaptation process was the AI-driven upscaling technology known as PSSR. On the existing PlayStation 5 base model, FSR image upscaling feature is typically used, which has some drawbacks such as pixel ghosting and pixel jittering around pixel reconstruction process. The PlayStation 5 Pro's image upscaling based on PSSR minimizes these weaknesses and delivers highly impressive results. Now, like I said, I'll leave a link in the description down below so you guys can check it out for yourself. It's a pretty long read, but it's another couple of developers telling you how good FSR is and how it's comparable to DLSS. Now, the Dying Light director said, "We just discovered the full capabilities of the PlayStation 5 Pro. It's already exciting as it gives us a lot more flexibility with graphics and performance. The boost in GPU will allow us to push visual fidelity, especially with our complex environmental details like weather effects, which are very core to Dying Light. The Beast experience. This kind of power also means generally smoother gameplay at higher resolutions, and that's something very important for a game like ours where the highest level immersion is of utmost importance." Sony's PSSR is a substantial push for this super sampling tech that other companies are experimenting with. It's a great initiative, as in the future, this can allow developers to focus slightly less on performance and have bigger creative liberty. If what Sony is proposing will become a new standard, then PSSR could potentially turn out to be even more important than the direct increased GPU power that the console delivers. As a reminder, PlayStation's Spectral Resolution is an AI-based upscaling technique that leverages machine learning to reconstruct pixels from a lower starting resolution. According to the recent testing from Digital Foundry, PSSR is superior to AMD FSR 3.1, but inferior to NVIDIA DLSS. This is not surprising, since AMD FSR 3.1 isn't based on machine learning, whereas DLSS premiered usage of AI in image reconstruction techniques several years ago. However, not all games will support it. Empire of the Ants, one of the launch titles, will not. On the upside, PSVR 2 games will soon be able to take advantage of PSSR. So, like I stated earlier, PSSR, it will evolve over time. DLSS, when it came out in the beginning, there was a lot of issues with it that got corrected over time. Now, the way that machine learning works is that it learns over time. And as that model learns, they replace it and they put it into the developer's tools, and they're able to use the new version of PSSR. Now, once a newer version comes out that is learning better, that is resolving the image better, they take that version out and then put the new version in, rinse and repeat. That's how DLSS became to be what it is today. And the same thing is going to happen for PSSR. And I think this is good for everybody involved. I think this is good for PC because, of course, PC uses machine learning. They've been using it for quite a long time. This is the first time that we're seeing this on console. So this is a very big deal. You got developers saying what a big deal it is and what an asset it is to creating their games. And if you know anything about PC gaming and the impact that DLSS has had over there, then you would know that PSSR is a big deal. Now, we're about a week away from the PlayStation 5 Pro. I'm going to have it on the channel. You better believe I'm going to be doing a stream day one. I'm going to have content out, and I'm going to be showing you guys the differences that you get on the PlayStation 5 Pro versus other consoles. So I'm really excited for this, but I want to know what you guys think about this. What are your thoughts on the PlayStation 5 Pro and its PSSR upscaling solution? What are your thoughts on Indiana Jones? Do you think that this game has to be a hit? And what are your expectations of this game? Let me know in the comment section down below. And like I usually say, please like, share, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one.